Welcome to St Catherine's, and I hope you're really enjoying this morning. I started as a principal here in 2014. It's a girls' school, P to 12, and we also have 3 and 4 year old co-ed ELC, so some little boys in our co-ed school, which you walked up beside when you arrived here. Just pre-COVID, I had an opportunity to write my second strategic plan, which, as many of you can imagine, is a lot of fun, and sort of had to finish it off during COVID, which I think back now is just crazy. But with it always gives a great opportunity to do some blue sky thinking with your staff and with your heads of faculty, and I really enjoyed that opportunity. And what we were really fed up with was really highly diligent, intelligent girls who were literally going to their teachers and saying, just tell me what I need to learn and I will go and learn it. Does that sound familiar? Just tell me what I need to learn, I'll go and learn it. A really high reliance on teachers and a high reliance on rote learning and regurgitating. And, Sari, my deputy principal, we'd really had enough of that. And so in this strategic plan, we really set out to create a much greater depth of learning, which we knew would be a wholesale change of classroom practice here at St Catherine's. And so what I've been able to aim to do is to develop a thinking agenda here at St Catherine's, and we were on our way. We'd created this great partnership with Peter Ellison at the University of Queensland, and we'd written the strategic plan, which had a very detailed explanation of the thinking agenda and teaching for thinking here at St Catherine's. But then the opportunity to become a Menzies Fellow really enabled us to lead this project, which we'd started, but were just sort of getting bits of really good stuff and some just not picking up at all. So through the vehicle of teacher collective efficacy, we've been able to implement this project. So I feel like the two things really align. And so it's all well and good to have a belief in what you're doing, but what actually is that belief? And so for us, it was around our strategic plan and around our thinking agenda and our teaching for thinking. So I sort of think for here at St Catherine's, it was very much aligned. So we use the vehicle of cross-faculty teams, which is a little bit similar to what Kate just spoke about, each with a PLT coach, and we really aim to guide teachers in our teaching for thinking agenda. So there were 3 key questions that Peter Ellison kept asking us. How do you know students are thinking in your classroom? How do you plan for student thinking as a teacher? And how do you give feedback on student thinking? So that was very much sort of the content of what we were doing and what we were believing that we wanted to change. So just sort of a what we did, just some examples. So these were just some questions to sort of lift students from rote learning and regurgitating, and really to sort of start to speak to a wider application of the values of inquiry and how that can facilitate student-teacher consultation. So just really ensuring that there was clarity in what the girls were writing, that there was precision, there was coherence, there was depth, there was accuracy, and there was sort of, much more significance to what they were learning, not just this very superficial rote learning. And so just some examples of what that looks like for a teacher. Can you provide examples to support? Can you provide a diagram to be clearer? Can you use technical language? Can you strengthen your justification here? So this is what the teachers had to believe through that teacher efficacy vehicle, that they were going to make a difference in the lives of the students. Does that make sense? Am I making sense there? Yeah. So just to sort of jump straight to our key learnings, and it's great that Sari's here because this is very much her baby. It sort of started as a squashed egg that we used to laugh about a little bit. But we set out to write a teaching and learning framework with our teaching for thinking agenda. And we decided to not take anything off the shelf. We very much wrote and spent the time over about 4 months of consultation with heads of faculty plus one, so they had to all bring one with them, which was a gift to have in the room, just normal, not just your heads of faculty voices, but they had to bring their up-and-comers. And we wrote a bespoke teaching and learning program, which was just for St Catherine's, and it suited St Catherine's teachers, what our practice was, and really what our students needed. And so there was very much a great sense of collective efficacy in even just coming together and going, what does classroom practice look like here? What are we trying to achieve with the students? And the 8 character dispositions around the outside of that of the shape there, I don't really know what it is actually, Sari, really are the changes that we want to see in our students, their ability to reflect, a sense of deliberate practice, ability to inquire and ask questions, a sense of self-efficacy in themselves. So the opportunity to write our own teaching and learning program has proved to be really valuable and really sort of enabled a sense of collective efficacy in what the staff were achieving and what they believed was going to make a difference for them. The second key learning area was really around leadership, and so we, over the 3 years, and where I spent some of the Menzies money was really in developing leaders. So each year I select 6 to 8 middle leaders here at the school, and they work with Rosie Rowe, who's a consultant across many schools, and she runs a leadership program for them. And so strengthening our middle leaders has made such a difference. And I think with any strategic plan, your middle leaders can block it or they can allow it to really flourish in the school. So this opportunity, so for the middle leaders, allowed them to stop just thinking in their silo and actually to see what was happening in the wider school pattern. So the development of heads of faculty, heads of year, so what was happening with the student, with their character dispositions, and also PLT coaches, who none were heads of faculty. We really sort of picked our up and coming and emerging leaders in the school. And those really great teachers in the classroom, handpicked them and said, how about you come and do some coaching and we'll give you some leadership as well. So some real opportunity for them through that leadership program to be able to enable dialogue that ensured goal consensus. That we also, worked around building some trusting relationships, embedded reflective practice. So each teacher here at the school runs an action research program project for the year, and then it is then have an opportunity to talk through that through their sort of appraisal process at the end of the year. So we very much aligned it with their appraisal process or their annual review. I don't call it appraisal, but just to really build in a sense of accountability. And so we really spent a lot of time and thought in how we sort of facilitate this through the school. And I just can't understate the importance of getting the middle leaders thinking not just about their silo, but the broader impact across the whole school. And the other key learning was, similar to Kate, was the benefit of cross-faculty professional learning teams to scale up and share practice. And so I don't know what the structures of your school is like, but my staff are up in Sharon House, which is a fabulous building at the end of St Catherine's Walk, but English teams sit together, the science team sits together. They're all in separate rooms, and so there's a lot of great conversation for the maths faculty, but they're all very siloed in their faculties. And so, it was really interesting. My head of English was very sceptical about the benefit of cross-faculty. She wanted just her English team and didn't really care what anyone else was doing. And so I really had to sort of push this through a little bit. And she came to me a couple of, 6 months later. She said, I was really sceptical at the start, but I soon realised our connection in the professional learning team was student learning, not subject content. And so if I had brought together the maths teachers, what do you think the maths teachers would talk about? Maths. Assessment and curriculum, like just maths, But what they found was that their only common link coming together was actually the students and what they were learning. And so it completely changed the dialogue. And there was a great sense of collective efficacy out of that, and a great sense of that teaching for thinking agenda they were implementing, that they started to believe that this was making a difference. The benefit of cross-faculty is that I had some high-flying English and humanities faculties that were really picking up on this agenda. And I apologise to any maths teachers, and they were really dragging their feet. Maths is different, this won't work, And science was sort of there, but the benefit of bringing cross-faculty together really allowed us to share practice. And so it encouraged open communication across the school. There was strength in diversity, and it enabled us to sort of really start to share resources. So I think from that key learning, and it was a bit of a push at the start, it's been really exciting and a much healthier staff culture, which I think then feeds into the benefits of collective efficacy. Particularly for new staff as well. They can often just meet the group that they're meeting with, but they've sort of, got colleagues right across. The other part of our PLTs is we did also embed them into the school day, so they're not an after-school meeting. but we did align them with year levels, so teachers of Year 9 or teachers of VCE. So there was some common element with the students that they were teaching. It just wasn't from all over the school. So they were able to talk about, what Year 8s were experiencing and doing. So just a couple of examples on the ground. The Year 9, as I said, there's some really high-flying humanities stuff. So they got the humanities program tossed in the bin and started all over again. We completely cleared classroom furniture and embedded a Harkness, which is a bit of a Socratic style of learning. And so they have been able to really develop quite a unique humanities program around this Harkness method. So the girls attend that class as though they're attending a board meeting, and they need to learn a whole new language. They love it. The first thing they told us was they love the teacher sitting at the table with them, actually. But they've been able to do a lot more flipped learning, so they sort of don't see it as homework, but they see it as preparation for attending this board meeting. But what's been the benefit of the PLT is that we've now scaled that up this year, and the Year 10 Biology Ethics Unit are using a Harkness style. The VisCom are using a Harkness style, and History Revolutions are also using a Harkness style. So the scale up has been great, which has been that great sense of collective efficacy across the school, which we've been really excited about. The other benefit then also of bringing PLTs together that have a common element of the students they teach is other faculties are able to see what Year 7s are producing in other areas of the school. So the Year 7 English was a really interesting example, and what I was totally amazed with was, these girls were like 6 months out of grade 6. And they were studying Hitler's daughter. I'm very mindful that Sarah used to be the head of English, so I hope I do this justice. But so they sort of looked at Hitler's daughter through propaganda, and so they looked at Nazi propaganda posters. They did a compare and contrast to Australian propaganda posters, and they learned how to ask questions about what they were seeing about that time and that period, and then used graphic organisers to sort of really guide answers to their questions, and then wrote teal paragraphs. The quality of this work through just the depth of that work was unbelievable. And when Marianne presented this to a staff meeting in that sharing practice, our Year 6 teachers here could not believe what the girls were writing 6 months after, graduating from Barbrick. So some really good examples of being able to scale up, share their practice, which once again really lifts that belief in what they're doing and what they're capable of seeing Year 7 students do. So what are the humanities teachers going, look what the Year 7s are doing in English. Maths teachers are finding on board, look what the Year 7s are doing in English. So really nice sort of sharing of practice. What we would do differently is it took us a little while to realise the benefit of doing our teaching and learning framework, but this was invaluable in sort of shifting it forward. So I think we would have done this much earlier. And sitting alongside that teaching and learning framework was a glossary. What is metacognition? What is inquiry, asking questions? And so we wrote a glossary that sat with this. If we'd known the benefit of this, we would have started with this, but we sort of did this halfway through. But it was certainly really beneficial. So it's about the benefit of finishing it and going, well, if we'd done this like 12 months ago, probably would have been a bit further along. But it was really important for teachers that didn't have a strong literacy background to really understand what we were talking about and what were the definitions of that. So once again, there was that really building knowledge in our team to enable them to then have belief in what they were doing. So I sort of can't understate the value of this. It's about shifting mindsets and belief, but ensuring there's skill sets in your leadership teams and then tool sets in an evidence-based approach as well. So this sort of triangle, but it sits along something that you're also trying to implement as well. That's it for me. Thank you.